Hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy New Year. It is, well, a little bit into the new year now, but what a breath of fresh air. I have to share that I tried to put out an episode or two at the end of the year, fresh start of the new year, and it wasn't coming through. It wasn't coming together, and a part of me really wanted to be frustrated with that, but honestly, there's been so much going on that I just haven't had time to really give that energy. It was what it was, and I had to sit back and surrender and say, it is going to happen when it is divine. And so we're here, we're recording it. It's a whole different energy, and it's interesting because I've actually recorded an episode and just didn't put it out, and I listened back to it, which I normally do, but I was like, that's not the energy we're given. That's not the energy we're starting the new year with. And turned out like I just didn't have time to edit it or anything. So I was like, well, we're not doing that episode, I guess. And then when I came back to it this week, I was like, we're gonna record a new one. Um, because the energy is always changing. And so I just want to give out like what my truth is in this moment. And part of what I've learned over, the last year and a half of podcasting is really just trusting like what's flowing through me when I feel like that light, that spark, like, yes, this is what I'm doing right now, not I should be doing this. It's a whole different, it's a whole different frequency. And so, yeah, I want to be, in tune with what I'm putting out because I know that that's going to affect how you guys receive that. So, needless to say, we're here. It's 2024, and I just want to share kind of my evolution of the New Year's because, growing up and as a young adult, early 20s, mid 20s, whatever, all the years, there is kind of that expectation of like, what are your New Year's goals? What are you doing? It's a new year. Like, what are you starting? What are you leaving behind? All the things, all the ways we want to put it. And I love that as a whole, we've we've transitioned into necessarily like setting New Year's resolutions into like, you know, the leave behind and what are you adding in? And there's different ways of saying it. But energetically, the new year, the new calendar year is a time for people to reflect and decide, okay, what am I going to change? And I think for me, I've always kind of like I've not connected with that. And a part of me is just like, I do this all the time. And I don't have the energy of intention all the time. Like, growing up, of course, the past few years, that's a completely different story. But like, I didn't understand what the big deal was about the end of the calendar year. And I didn't pay much attention to it, but I did feel the pressure, to set goals, to set New Year's resolutions. And I would do it. I would say, yeah, this is it. Even as a kid, I would say it. And I just knew, like, I don't know what that means because I'm going to change my mind. And part of that, yes, I'm a manifesting generator, true and true. Like, I don't set long-term goals. I have big visions, but the path to get there, I'm not set on. I focus on what I could do right now, but I don't focus on like all the things and changing everything that doesn't need to be changed yet. Because I know that when the moments come, I'm going to be ready to change them. I'm not waiting for anything outside of me except like something indicating that it's ready to change. And that indication is usually reflected to me or felt by me, in some way. So it's like, I never really resonated with that, but I would do it. I would kind of play into it. I would play around with it and see, like, is this worth playing with? And as an adult, and then I got into, energy healing and learning about crystals and all the energy stuff. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I get the energetics of it, but I have not been using it to my advantage. And it's because I've been trying to play into it in these ways that really weren't my vibe. Like it just didn't match what I was needing to do, right? So Anyway, needless to say, when I finally just let go of like what I thought I needed to do to start the new year, it really opened up my perspective to all these other ways of working with energy. And I'm like, it could be the calendar year, yes, but we're also changing the month. So there's all these things that are changing besides the calendar year. And I'm like, I work with these changes all the time. I started out with the moon phases, right? Then we can look at transits. If you're into gene keys, if you're into human design, you can look at the astrology of all the planets, right? Like there's all these layers and layers and layers. And so what am I working with? What energy am I working with? And I think to zoom out, and if we want to get just like see a bigger perspective, is like your resonance on what you're planning or what you're setting intentions for is really determined on like what frequency you're at. Like, am I set to follow this year calendar? I could be. Like, I could set my frequency to really tune into that energy. But as I was playing more with the moon phases and playing more with, knowing about astrology, I really got in tune with the astrological year. When Aries season hit, I felt like this is a new version of me. Like, we're in a new year. And I still feel that. Like, I feel that with all these transitions now because I've tuned into them, right? And so it's just a matter of like figuring out, what am I tuned into? What do I want to be tuned into? And if you don't feel like super empowered to plan at the beginning of a calendar year, let that be. Let that be. It doesn't have to be that way. And I know there's a lot of pressure for that. So I've been there, and releasing that, it's really just allowed me to zoom out and see all the layers, all the rhythms and cycles that we live in. And it's like there's no right or wrong way. What's amazing is to have intentions and to tune in to say, what do I need right now? And know that there's no right or wrong time to do that. So giving yourself permission to say, what do I need right now? And asking yourself and trusting yourself. And that's really what I think the last 2 years for me has been. But 2023, it's really solidified this need to check in with myself first. And I want to honor that and celebrate that and empower everyone else to do the same. Is like, that is great. There's all this noise out here. There's all these ideas. There's all these opinions. There's all these perspectives. That is like gold. It's wisdom at our fingertips, right? But what the most important thing is like coming back to ourselves. Like, I know all of this information. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've observed it. I've seen people playing it out. And those are gifts. That's wisdom. I now know what I want to try for myself. I now know what's going to work for me, what's not going to work for me. And depending on your own energy, you're going to play with that in your own way. And surrendering to that, right? Like, I'm thinking like typical third line energy. And whether you are a third line or not, we all have that energy in us at some point, and we're all experiencing that through interactions. And it's like trial and error, right? Like, we're going to learn what works for us. But if we're so set on this is what we're told to do, we're told that we need to set new goals because it's the new calendar year, and you're so stuck on that, like, you're not seeing all these other options of planning and intention setting. And maybe you're setting goals, like maybe you are very goal oriented. I love that, right? But you still have to figure out what works best for you energetically. How are you tuning in? All that. So last year was the first year I did not all of my planning, but I really tuned into the planning through numerology. And so what I did was I looked at the whole year with like collectively what the energy was, personally what the energy was, like by month. And it was very low anxiety for me. Like, yes, there was details, yes, there was big picture, but it wasn't like it didn't feel like I was pushing anything out. Like, it didn't feel forceful for me to plan it. It was just very creatively pulled out of me, right? And I decided I'm going to do that again because in reflection, I often reflect. I reflect all the time, honestly, but like pulling out my notebook and looking at my notes from my year planning, I only reflected a couple times throughout the year, and then I did one big reflection at the end, and it was so rewarding to just see, like, the things that happened in the months that I said I wanted them to happen, and I wasn't stressed about it, I wasn't worried about it. Yes, there were things that I wrote down, and I even, like, planned in my planner that, like, "Hey, in order for these things to happen, like, these are the things you should be doing every day. Like, these are the actions that are gonna get you there. These are the behaviors and the tasks that are gonna set you in that frequency that is where you wanna be," right? So all year, I was constantly doing the things that was getting me in the frequency of these goals that I had that were really just things on my to-do list. Like, it was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this in November," and in order to be ready for that, I have to set my frequency like this throughout the month or throughout the year, and things fell into place. And I'm what I mean by falling into place, I mean like manifested, right? Like some things I'm like, that's there's no way that's gonna happen by that. Like if I was looking at it like, a month ahead, and things just happened. Things just happened. Things just fell into place. It was very miraculous. And it was like the journey to get there was through being really honest and being really, really clear and saying no when it wasn't quite right. All goes back to intuition. And it was really like honoring my intuition, but I had to like peel back all these layers because there was a lot of not truths for me that I was aligned with, that I was committing to, right? These beliefs that I said, I don't believe that anymore, but my actions, my energy, my frequency was still showing up to that belief. So it's really conflicting. Like it's like if you don't see traction, if you don't see any movement or like change, it's like where are you conflicting? Where are you saying one thing but your actions or your beliefs are still giving energy to the other thing? That was very much mirrored for me in 2023. It was like finding the beauty in truth. It's like it kind of stings when you're like, "Oh yeah, you say you believe that, but like why are you still showing up like this then?" And it was a lot of that reflection, but it was finding that this is the way to like fully feel love. This is the way to love myself, is like revealing those truths. And that's what it was all year for me. And so at the end of the year, I was very present. I was very aware of everything I had done, but like the reflection of that was like, this is the way to love. Like truth and love and wisdom, like through my expression all year was just like, this is it. This is the magic. It felt like waking up to magic every day because there were so many synchronicities and just so many things that like if my ego went off, like if my ego wanted to tell that story, it was like, well, that's not gonna work. Or well, now you're SOL. Like, like kind of that, like I don't believe it because there's no way this is happening. But it was like, I'm not feeding into that story. That's not the story I'm telling. And then it was just literally like people, things, ideas would just show up. And I'm talking about like all different ways of life, like all different areas of life. But then that was in my relationships and my conversations, needing help, like having hard conversations. I literally had people come in that happened to like trigger the not trigger like that happened to start the conversation that was needed. Like it, if you pay attention, these things are happening for you, and you don't have to know what needs to happen, but you really pay attention. And what I did was I just like dove into what it felt like to trust that I'm always supported. Like I just believe that I am supported. So whatever it is that I need in any part of my life, I'm going to trust that what shows up is what I need. What I'm guided to is what I need. Okay. I had to step away. Somebody was at the door and I had to sign it for a package. But last year was basically the time for me to figure out what it felt like to fully receive support. And like that's not like 100%, right? It's not like, oh, the year is over and that lesson's done. Like, of course not. And I'm going to talk about that a little later, as like how what we experience, like the energy that we're in, like it's really leading up, like it's a buildup, right? Like one, we're here for the linear experience, like our human bodies are here for the linear experience. And so energetically, like we're experiencing these energies the way, like the order that we are, whether you're looking at astrology or numerology or the planets, like whatever. We're here to experience it in this linear way, even though we could get into that. But, like we experience a 7 year before 8 year for a reason, you know? And so I had all these lessons that feel very connected to my personal year 3. Like it was all about expressing myself and finding that inner truth and then go being that version of myself. And it doesn't stop per se, right? But that energy, what I experienced, I carry into my 4th year, which is now what I'm in. We're in a collective year 8, universal year 8, and I'm in a personal year 4. So honoring that transition, but knowing like it's not all like lost behind us, because I know now going into this year, it's the 4 year, it's like a hard work foundational year. It's really like clearing out what's not aligned. So there's a lot of breakthroughs. There's a lot of things that kind of need to be cleared out because it's like it's not solid foundation for where you want to go. I wouldn't be able to feel the clarity and like excitement and this ability to say, yeah, I'm going to put in the hard work to build this solid foundation without having that experience of the 3 year of like really clearing out the truth, right? Like mindset, expression wise, like belief wise, I feel like so much clutter was cleared. And I have to use this new ability to express myself through love and truth in order to set the solid foundation, right? Like, so for me, that was very much my story. A lot of the 3 year for me was inner knowings and figuring out how to express my truth to my community, to my tribe, to my people, for my close relationships. I need that to feel a solid foundation. One, I'm a 2-4. I need my relationships to feel solid. So then I can go do all the things that I want to do. And in order for my relationships to continue to stay solid, I have to be able to express myself. I have to be able to communicate what's happening next. What am I doing now? It all works. Like it all makes sense. And this energy, it's not unique to me, right? Like this energy could be tapped into for you, whatever you might not have been in a personal year 3 this last year. Maybe you are. That'd be cool because then we'd be in the same. But you tune into you, what your frequency is, what you need. And it kind of jumped off of the planning thing, but like the more you tune in, the more you are just kind of aware of how you feel. You don't have to know anything about the planets or numerology, whatever, if you don't want to. But I encourage you to, kind of follow what road lights you up. Allow that to use a compass on the energy, how you feel, how you want to work with it. And if you don't know, ask yourself. Like if your mind is saying, I don't know, ask yourself, what do I need today? How is the energy available to me today here to serve me? Pull some cards, go outside, start writing. It's amazing what you will write if you don't think about it. So that's one way you can just take a step back from all the planning and what you think you need to do and start asking. And when I started asking that question, it said, energy so well. Do it the way that lights you up. And I love numerology. So, of course, that's what I leaned into. And it just makes sense to me, right? So I'm not going to fight what doesn't make sense. So anyway, I'm so lit up because I get so excited when things like it doesn't even have to make sense. I used to equate to like the excitement of like I connected the dots, like the synchronicities, right? Like I love the synchronicities, don't get me wrong. But what now excites me the most is like this ability of I'm just it's like this trust fall. I changed my I gotta tell you guys about that too, but I changed my Instagram bio a little bit and I decided I don't even know where it came from, but I put intuition trust fall and I was like, "Ooh, that's good." Because that's really the fun of the unknown, right? Like I'm going to trust that I am so supported and I am confident that I'm going to know what is for me. And it's like in all parts of your life, decide and then act based on that choice. And then see how things shift and change to really support that. Like you're so supported. You got to pay attention. You got to pay attention. So, yeah, I mentioned before my year was magical and it was nothing short of that. I am wearing my mommy sweatshirt. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you can see. But we ended the year with an adoption. One of my things that I wrote in my year ahead planning last year for 2023 was things I needed to complete. And I had written foster care. And I wrote that in January last year and I didn't know how that was going to play out. Like we knew we were leading towards adoption. So if you're newer here, we had already adopted 2 kiddos in 2022 and then we were still fostering 2. And so we knew we were going to adopt, but I didn't know what the time frame was, how that was going to look. Actually, yeah, I shouldn't say we knew we were going to adopt. We knew that the kids were going to be adopted. January 2023, yeah, I would say we did not know that we were going to adopt them. So anyway, I wrote that in my year ahead planning. I didn't put it for a specific month or anything, but I did say that needs to be complete in 2023. I just knew, like, even if we weren't going to adopt them, like, I was done. I was complete in that system. And but the trust part of that was not knowing really how that needed to look. Like, I didn't feel the urgency to like go end it myself. I didn't feel like I needed to cut ties really anytime sooner throughout the year. But it turns out, we then learned we then decided we were going to adopt, and we're like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes or when it is. And nearing the end of the year, we were pretty certain it was going to happen in January 2024, and that was it. Like, I was okay with that. And our foster care license actually expired, and then there was a discussion about renewing it, and that was a moment where I was like, I really just have to share that we're not going to foster anymore after these kids. And then I was like, oh, okay, like, then let's not renew your license, let's just extend it until they get adopted. And so that was like one, like, oh wait, like I really need to just share like what's happening and see how the universe works out, because I know this is not that big a deal probably to anyone listening, but like a renewal for your foster care license is a lot of work. It's just a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of questions you have to answer. They have to come to your home quite a bit. You have to get fingerprinted again. Like, you got to do all these things. And it's just like a process, right? And I was like, I don't even want to do this process. I am done. And the universe provided, right? And so we did an extension. We didn't have to do anything. We did the adoption. Like, we had to do the adoption stuff, of course. But so it all worked out. And then I was like, okay, it's going to be complete in January 2024. Well, it turned out the judge was willing to come in between Christmas and New Year. So we adopted them on August 29th, or December 29th. So we were officially complete with foster care as of December 29th. My dog is throwing socks. I looked over, like, something flew. I don't know. I don't think it was in the screen. Something flew. We have a sock chair, and she's on the chair, like, kicking off the socks. She's comfy now. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So many synchronicities, so many things just like lining up. And I can't even say how they should, but it is how they should. But it's not necessarily how I planned. It was setting the intentions and trusting. And then, like, also having that confidence of like, okay, I have this knowing, this idea, this thing urging me to do this and pushing me in this direction, and sitting with yourself and saying, is this the next step to this bigger picture? Is this what I'm meant to do right now? And trusting that. I have something. And trusting that. It's not a matter of overthinking and worrying, like, is this the next step? You're going to know if it's not the next step. I will tell you that. I will tell you, you will know when it's not. So yeah, I really just wanted to take the extra time. The kids were home over the whole break. This was the first year that they didn't have like daycare or some type of separate care during their winter break. And so they were all home and it was great. And my mom was here from Panama and it was just a whole lot of celebrating and a lot of completion. There was a lot of completion for us. And I think for me personally, that's why this year, the new year, calendar year, is pretty significant for me. I felt a big shift, but I'm really in tune with my personal year, which goes, based off of the calendar year. And so feeling that shift into a fourth year, I feel what's needed for my foundation right now, and it's coming in strong. And I think we're in a 9-month. And so there's still that like kind of completion, tying up loose ends energy right now. And I definitely feel that. I felt that like the first week of January, and just kind of like you really need to reflect on this some more, and have some conversations if you need to, get rid of some things if you need to. And I still kind of feel that, like, I mean, my message for this first month is clear out the clutter for sure. And so that's often a message after the holidays for us. But yeah, so it feels good. It feels good. Okay. I wanted to share something. I want to read this paragraph from this book, and I have no idea how long I've been talking, but we're gonna talk about a couple more things. I wanted to share this paragraph because I was reading this book. I was called to pick up the White Tablets of Melchizedek again, the beginning of the year, like January 1st. I was told to pick up this book and start reading it. This actually isn't where I'm at. My bookmark was in the spot that I want to read to you. But I was reading one day and I was like, wow, that really is a summary of my year. This one paragraph. And then I was sitting there just kind of, I reread it a couple of times and sat with it. And I was looking at the page numbers because if you know me, I'm a big numbers person. So I will always look at the numbers. And I'll tell you about the page numbers after I read it. Okay. Who taught you it was unsafe to speak your truth? Who taught you that embodying the truth of who you are is not acceptable? This is a heavy way to live, and here we relate to the density you feel. Set yourself free so you can fully express yourself in the way you communicate, in your creativity, in the way you dance, sing, speak, adorn yourself, dress yourself, and love. Freedom comes from truth, but you cannot live out your truth without recognizing it first. What is most important is nothing tangible, but rather the frequency. Okay. The power of that, like, I got chills. I have chills. The power of that paragraph alone, I just want you to receive that. Like, just receive that. It's so good. Freedom comes from truth. That is the epitome of my whole year. And that's like a beautiful thing. And like the connection of truth and love, it was just like sprinkled throughout my whole year. And I love that. I love that. But what's interesting, I don't know. Okay, just receive it some more. This is a heavy way to live, and here we relate to the density you feel. That sentence alone, like knowing, like when you feel like you can't share your truth, when you feel like you aren't living your truth, expressing your truth, it gets heavy, like literally. And that's the density of being human, right? Like that is what can weigh us down if we let it. And having expression, having that truth come out of you, being able to connect to yourself to know what your truth is, that's the true freedom. Okay. I love that. But the best part of this is when I was reading this, I was like, this was my year in a paragraph summary. And so last year, 2023, I turned 35. And this paragraph is split up between page 34 and 35. So yeah, it starts down here and then it ends up here. So on page 34 and 35 is this paragraph that sums up my year, the year in which I turned 35. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, as I'm saying this to not knowing who's listening, like I know a lot of you who listen, but it's interesting because I'm like, is that cool or is it just cool because like it's my perspective, or like how I feel about it. Those are the little signs and synchronicities that I just love. And you know, there's bigger ones, there's smaller ones, there's some that I don't see but I still receive, and like opening myself up to receive those and notice them. Like the more you notice, like the more you see. um and it's fun. That's what makes it fun. And I just I want everyone to have that kind of like giddiness of like, oh my gosh, did you see that? And we all have that in our own way. We all receive that in our own way. And like oftentimes I will see people like giving the power away, like giving the credit away. And I'm like, no, that's your magic. Like you witnessed that, like you experienced that because you're magic. And that's what it is, right? Like I trusted myself to pick up this book and start reading it while I was still doing some reflection. And I had this beautiful reflection of my whole year. And I was like, yes, it is for my year. Like it was confirmed, right? Like that's the kind of confidence that you have when you start trusting yourself. Like you decide and you have with full confidence that like my heart is expanding into this decision, and literally the whole like road is cleared out for you and all your support is showing up. Like it's just so clear to me that that's available to everybody. And so what's coming? What's coming? Going into 2024. I feel like um a lot of I'm going to share a lot about like the things that were completed in 2023 probably in a couple of podcasts, but I'm just excited for 2024. It feels like I'm coming out of the water as me. Like, oh, I can finally come up and breathe, and I feel like I'm not afraid to be myself. Not that I was before per se, like not that it was like conscious, but it feels like you're gonna see me shine type of energy. It's like Taylor Swift bejeweled energy, you know? And I don't know if you know, but I feel really good and confident. There are some updates that I want to share. I still plan on doing weekly episodes, so that's exciting. They're gonna be still here wherever you listen to your podcast, and then we'll still have the videos on YouTube as of right now. And that's a question I keep asking myself. Do we still need to put it on YouTube? And I keep getting yes. I don't know if that's gonna stay forever, but let me know, I guess, if you watch it on YouTube and you want it. Like make sure you comment, share it maybe. We need some more subscribers over there, I think. But I do know a few of you watch it regularly on YouTube. And so if it's a matter of watching the video, then there's other ways to have the video available to you all. So that's still kind of happening. I think what I have decided is, you know, this podcast, it came to fruition out of a need for me to express myself. And I really love the long form content. Like I struggle with writing captions. I struggle with like sharing words on stories. I record stories so much that I'm like, I don't want to spend my time doing this. So I came to the podcast platform mainly just to see how it felt, but I fell in love with it almost instantly. And then the feedback and the community and the support that I've gained from it has been the reward in itself. Like it's amazing. So I want to continue to have this to be a space where intuition is talked about, where it is widely accepted to trust yourself, to tune into yourself first, to be that safe place to say, hey, I'm ready to turn on a new perspective or try on a new perspective or turn on a new perspective. I'm ready to trust myself. I'm ready to have more confidence. I'm ready to make decisions for me. I'm ready to set boundaries. Like whatever that is that you're now ready to do, I want the intuition playground to be that place where you can go and hear the things that you need to hear, to be in this energy of empowerment, of excitement, of creativity, of having fun, right? Because it does get heavy. It does get real, right? And when we remember like to stay in that creator role, when I remember that I'm the creator of this community, it relieves me of the pressure of what I think I should be doing. So I'm going to stay in that energy for now with the podcast of I'm here to give a safe space for, expression and finding new truths and new perspectives, and also trusting ourselves and having that confidence. And so weekly episodes, I did want this to be like a story time. Like I do kind of share more what's going on in my life with you guys on the podcast. It's usually a little bit after the fact, but I want this to be a space where we're connecting on deeper things other than flashes shown here and there of my life, which is also great. So however you like to consume. I am still on Instagram. I did, however, change the name. So my Instagram name is not the Intuition Playground anymore. I'm going to tag it below. I'm going to stop tagging my Instagram below, although I think we're done with changes, but it's at Caitlin Vif, VIF 222. It's the same on TikTok. It's the same on Instagram. So it's the same. I think that's where I just needed to line it up. And when I make decisions like this, people, I have this feeling that from the outside looking in, people are like, wow, she really can't make up her mind. And that's an accurate statement. Whereas I see it as I make up my mind, but I allow myself to change my mind. And things like usernames, I really don't stress about. I don't stress about, except when I feel the urge to change it. I do get clear on like, is this just a silly thing, or do I really need to change it? And this change wasn't energetic change. Like energetically, I needed my Instagram to be encompassing Caitlin, not just the Intuition Playground. And it was doing that, but for some reason I needed to change the name. And so that's, you guys just got my explanation on why I changed my name. But the Intuition Playground is still going to be shared there. You're still going to see the episode reels and stuff there. So if you try to tag me, it's at Caitlin Viv 222. I'll make sure to link it below. So that's one little change. We do have a shop up and running, so that's taking a lot of, I don't even want to say that. I don't want to say that. I'm committing a lot of energy towards the shop. It is so much fun. It's a lot of creation. It's like hands-on work. I can show you some of the stuff, but I love that. And I never thought I would be spending my time like crafting. And speaking of reflection, a couple years ago, well, the end of, so 2022, it might have been throughout 2022, 2021, maybe, I had this vision of me owning a shop, and I wanted to like forcefully say it was a physical shop, but I don't think I ever saw a physical shop. I think I was standing in a place that looked like it could have been a physical shop, but I've had lots of visions about owning a shop. And it's funny because I've received that vision, and then my human self tries to interpret it. And so then I think my human self like puts things in the shop that may or may not be accurate, right? So like this is where it goes back to surrender and trust to like, it might not play out exactly as we think it should, or as we saw it in a meditation, or whatever that may be, So I've seen myself owning a shop. I've seen myself as a shop owner. And the end of last year, I opened the shop, I made it legit, and I was just like, wait, this is it. This is the shop. And I didn't know it. And trust me, like I see this going in different directions. Like I can see the shop. So we're going to take a step back and tell that part another time probably. But like I do see the shop's potential going in multiple directions. Right now we do everything online and we make pins, cups, keychains, and Amy has joined me and she's doing more of the t-shirts, sweatshirts, and little book bags that are super cute. And so, yeah, it's just exciting. It is something that like I didn't really think like I jumped into it. That's an interesting story to share. I'm gonna share the story of birthing this new business at another episode. It's like I feel my mind just like saying share this, but I definitely don't want to include it all in this episode. So we're gonna save that for another episode. But a lot of my energy is going towards that. And it's, hands-on. It's more of like it's starting this and being in a 4-year, that's where a lot of my hard work is going. And so the podcast, I'm so excited just to have to still be this safe haven for truth and honesty and trusting ourselves. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to share my stories, share my wisdom of what I learned. We're going to pull cards. I definitely have gotten more guidance to do more card pulling episodes. We did a few of those like right at the beginning of the podcast. If you're interested in what that might look like, you can go back and listen or watch on YouTube. But more card pull episodes, story time, kind of chill, intuitive bestie convo vibes. That's what we're going for. And honestly, the value and what you receive from it is very conscious for me, and that is a fear of mine. I also recognize where like my anxiety towards that can also fall into a fear of like making sure I am serving and providing for you all. And so I hope that that's received, and I hope that's clear in every episode. But I also want to know your feedback, so don't be afraid to reach out of like what you want to hear, what you want to know about. And if I'm not knowledgeable in this, one, I love learning. Two, I am eclectic in resources. So if it's something that I am not well versed in, and I have a connection that I know will just provide so much more value, like I'm going to invite them on. I will do what I can to bring on guests that you guys want to hear as well. So, whew, okay. I kind of went backwards. It feels like I was going to share about like really moving into this 4-year for me. We're moving into an 8-year, which is, this expansion and abundance for the collective, which I've tapped into this energy a few times and it feels kind of chaotic. And I think because everyone's at like their own spot and like spirituality and really knowing themselves and trusting themselves, to where like this expansion, it's going to be a little bit messy because there's going to be a lot of waking up still. And when the expansion happens, it's almost I feel like more of like a firecracker, and then they're like, oh wait, but this is actually where we want to be. And I don't feel that necessarily for this audience. It's more, that was like more of the collective, because for this audience, I feel like this expansion feels very like freedom, like very like, oh, like what is this? And there could be like those fears that come up, but no, like there's an abundance of whatever it is that you need. And that's the 8-year, is like we're expanding because we are recognizing and living in abundance. And so everyone has that, right? That's the collective year. And I'm going into a 4-year, which is about like that hard work and foundation, really clearing things out. And so there's breakthroughs with this, but that can be things breaking down as well, crumbling, right? Things need to crumble if we're setting the solid foundation. Like we need to know what's not gonna hold us up. And so with that, I've thought about this and how this looks for the podcast. And, you know, I'm going to maintain my intention and my, my love for this podcast is really a place for me to express, a place for me to share my experiences and my knowings. And it's, as a second line, it's so rewarding to be able to sit here and talk and know that I'm helping somebody, or maybe I'm making you laugh, maybe I'm just providing you entertainment or something to listen to while you do something that you're not excited about. Whatever it is, like it brings me so much joy. And as a second line, I didn't ever, like, I shouldn't say I didn't ever. That's not always like conscious for me. That's not always like reflected to me unless I'm paying attention to that, or if I'm asking for that. Like as a second line, I have learned to ask for feedback, to ask like, hey, what am I good at? And to hear that I am good at like podcasting, I'm good at talking and sharing about these experiences and what I learned from it and what I'm doing next. Like to me, that does feel very natural. But to hear it reflected back and then to fully receive it, that's been one of the greatest gifts of this podcast. And so I don't want to stray from that. And so in all honesty, right now, like I don't want to change a bunch with the podcast. I actually want to bring in more truth and honesty and self-expression. And I'm still not gonna like force out episodes. You guys know, like if I miss an episode, it's probably because I didn't need to put one out, and we're gonna trust that. We're always gonna trust that. But I am gonna have this commitment. One of my words for 2024 is commitment. And it's so funny. I chose joy and commitment. And energetically they feel all like different, very different. But then when I zoom out and I'm like, of course I'm like committing to joy, right? Like that's almost what that is. But I'm bringing in joy because I want that to be this frequency that I'm always tuned into. And even with all the other emotions and frequencies around me. But the commitment piece, it's like, what am I committing to? Like being really clear of like, what is my commitment? And that gets really truthful really fast. So, I'm gonna carry that through everything. And one of my commitments is expressing myself through this podcast in a way that's going to empower others. And that is my hope for 2024 for the Intuition Playground. We're starting off with just this acceptance and this gratitude and really honoring what has happened and getting really clear on what we want to call in, like what intentions we're setting. And that could be as simple as choosing some words. And okay, what's your intention with choosing the word? Is it to infuse it through everything throughout your year? Is it to just be able to reflect and see whether it's like peace or balance, like how is that word going to be incorporated throughout your year? And you don't have to plan it. This is a matter of setting the intentions, asking for support and guidance, asking how does this need to be incorporated into my year? Pull some cards, journal, whatever you need to do. Talk it out with your dog. I talk to my dogs all the time and they know all about my plans and ideas. And sometimes just saying it out loud is very helpful. So, okay, we're going to wrap this up. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to have a couple more wrap up episodes and just story time episodes. I think there's a lot that I haven't shared, and now that things are completing, I feel like sharing is important. That's part of my alchemy is having the experience and then be able to share about it when I'm ready. And sometimes it's in the thick of it, and other times it's not. And especially when it involves other people, you know, I definitely want to honor and respect them. And so I'm gonna have some story times coming up. Though might be over the course of like the next 2 months, because it's not just gonna be back to back. Um, and yeah, I want to open up like this community feeling as well. So please send in any ideas or topics that you want us to get into. Um, like I said, I'm an open book, and I'm willing to use my resources and tribe to cover any topics that I'm not well versed in. Okay, I think that's it. I think we're wrapping up. Yes, honoring your intuition. I don't know, there's just one last message. Honoring your intuition. Are we gonna say anything else? Honoring your intuition and its connection to all the versions of you. So your intuition is multidimensional. Do not forget this. So that's where your intention and like that checking in. Like I do a check-in every day. Every day. Just do a check-in, like where are we at? How are we feeling? What's the vibe? This is still the frequency we're setting. I'm choosing joy. What are we committing to today? Those are simple questions that I ask myself every day based off of what intentions I'm setting, what words I chose, what goals I have, what do I want to complete? You know, like it doesn't have to be so hard. Honoring your intuition, because your intuition is going to guide you, and your intuition is multidimensional. So take out your assumptions, take out anything that you're expecting that your intuition should be telling you. Your intuition does not listen to you. I mean, it does, right? You're working with it, but if you're trying to select and choose what your intuition tells you, you're not listening to your intuition. You're not. You're saying, I don't want to hear you because I'm deciding that I need to hear this. And so I'm going to probably build that up in my ego. Which is a normal, like that's like a natural processing for the human, right? Like that's a conditioned processing system that we have. So honoring your intuition is going to look a lot like recognizing these other beliefs and these other pressures, tendencies to find validation, to find answers that we're looking for, to find answers that might feel easier. You know, just recognizing that and use discernment, and then have confidence in what you decide. It doesn't matter at the end of the day if you're listening to your intuition or not. Like if you decide with your intuition or not, what matters is you're giving them, like giving your intuition a space to come forward. And okay, that message at the end, you know, it's really just informing you, like it goes back to the planning. It goes back to, what do you want to do this year? What do you want to do this next, look, take back the year. What do you want to do this week? What do you want to do this next month, this quarter? I really like the quarter planning. That's fun. You know, and that can, what perspective do you need to make it feel like, okay, I can work with this, and trust yourself that what I believe I want to happen, I'm going to have this pathway guided out for me, drawn out for me. And I don't have to figure out what it looks like up there. I just have to know and decide where I'm going to step right now, and have confidence in that step. And you will know if your step needs to turn to the left more. You'll know if you need to actually turn around, you know? Have confidence that you will know. Trust that you will know. Intuition, trust, fall. That's what we're going to end it with. That's what we're going to end it with. Okay. Everything that you need will be linked below. I appreciate you listening to this first episode of 2024. We're here, we're here, we're here. Okay. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to tag me. Take a little screenshot. You can send it over to Instagram or TikTok, and it's at CaitlinViff222. And yeah, also, we are still doing some free intuition tips based off of your human design if you leave a rating and review for the show, which is really helpful to get more viewers and just like have the show be recommended out to new viewers, or new viewers, listeners. Get it right. Okay, that's it. That's it. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I will talk to you all next time on the Intuition Playground.